Welcome to Total War News, I'm Cody Bonds. The patch notes for Total War Warhammer 3's Update 2.2 have just been released, and they are quite lengthy. And if you want to see the specifics of unit balancing, you can find a link back to the original blog post in the video's description. But here are some of the highlights for this update. The Creative Assembly has made changes to settlements and garrisons to reduce the frequency of settlement battles. A minor settlement without a Tier 2 or 3 garrison will just be played as a regular land battle, which does make a certain degree of sense as it would technically have no defenses. They have added additional flavor for some of the special settlement garrisons, including Carrick 8 Peaks, the Black Pyramids, and Skaven Blight, so that you will get additional thematic units by building a garrison there. They've also made sure to do a character experience rebalance, reducing the importance of victory types and focusing on enemy unit destruction, which should make it more consistent when leveling your legendary lords and heroes. Several legendary lords have had tweaks to their victory objectives, including the Lizardmen, High Elves, and Empire. And a new game mode split option has been added to ranked multiplayer, letting you join separate queues and giving you greater control of your online experience. But most importantly, probably, there have been adjustments to AI aggression, strategy, and the overall game difficulty, which so many of you have complained about. And of course, as this is a major update, it also comes with new regiments of renown. For Grand Cathay, you'll see the Green Guardian. Centuries of silent sentry duty at the edge of the Warpstone Desert has been broken by a stunning display of choreographed violence. Foes will stand little chance against the enchanted behemoth towering above them. He gets the redirecting aura, he gains additional missile resistance, as well as a new ability, redirecting aura, where enemy units within range of the aura will have their projectiles redirected back at themselves. For Khorne, we have Khorne's Bloody Fist, a bloodthirster. Even by bloodthirster standards, the Bloody Fist stands apart. With every savage yet precise blow, it grows stronger, while its enemies are pounded to a gory blot on the landscape. He gets the ability Gore Shell the Bloodthirster and gains damage resistance when near enemy large targets. For Kislev, you have the Frozen Heart of Winter, an elemental bear, but he's more than a mere bear. This elemental creature has all the pride and rage of its beleaguered motherland distilled into its colossal icy form. He gains the Heart of Winter spell as a special bound ability that creates an area that damages nearby units over time. For Nurgle, you'll get Onkel the Great Unclean One. Those who've heard of Onkel know to steer well clear of his gaseous girth, lest a torrent of putrid filth descend upon them from gods know where. He gets an active ability, the Defiling Deluge, where Onkel heals himself while damaging enemies around him, as well as a spell update where Spirit Leech will replace the Miasma of Pestilence, which all tells you that you should steer clear of Onkel's fun-filled basement. For the Ogre Kingdoms, you have the Snowhorn of Morn. Used to living in the subpolar temperatures of the Granite Tooth Graveyard, this characteristically vicious stone horn knows how to use the icy cold to its best advantage, bringing far more than just heft to the fight. He has an active ability called Glacial Defense, where he gains increased armor and missile resistance at the expense of some speed, and an ability called Frostbite, which reduces the speed of enemy units that he strikes in melee. For Slaanesh, you have the Marquis of Masochism, a keeper of secrets whose only description is a simple quote.
I have such sights to show you.
He gets the ability Feasting on Fear as a passive, which regenerates health based on the number of enemies who have had their morale break around the Keeper of Secrets, undoubtedly just having looked up his or her skirts. A spell update where Phantasmagoria replaces the Lash of Slaanesh, and Enfeebling Foe replaces Acquiescence. As much like the Nurgle Lord mentioned above, this one also has bound spells in the base form. For Tzeentch, you have the Golden Griffin of Theurgy. The most powerful of the Lord of Changes chosen confuses and beguiles before sweeping in to give his enemies a bloody, merciless mauling. He has the ability Increased Armor, which in this case is a permanent glittering robe, basically, and gets spell updates where Searing Doom replaces the blue fire of Tzeentch, and Gehenna's Golden Hounds replaces the pink fire of Tzeentch. This update also brings a new endgame crisis for the Skaven, fittingly called the Vermintide. Burrowed deep beneath the surface, the Skaven are expanding their underground empire to the farthest corners of the world, with warp bombs ready to turn your settlements to ash, plus hordes of vermin spewing out from the dirt in the name of the Underfather. Willing factions must race to wipe out the major Skaven factions off the map and put a stop to the vermin tide. But tread carefully, for every Skaven clan that's yet to be slain makes the erupting Undercities even deadlier. Yes. For more general changes, improvements have been made to the overall stability and performance of the game, as well as trying to squash various crashes as they come up. And if you have encountered one of these, the company does encourage you to make sure to post it on their official forums. That way they can add it to their growing list of things to be addressed. These fixes are joined by tweaks to known in-game mechanics to help improve your play experience. One of the most important of which is the effects that increase to the healing caps for various factions, especially ones like Vampire Counts, are no longer 100 times stronger than intended. Settlement and deployed towers have also had their damage reduced again to be back consistent with Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 levels. And here's a big one that I'm honestly not entirely sure I agree with. When colonizing ruins, you will now take a temporary vigor penalty for your army instead of a massive manpower loss. I assume the idea here is to keep you moving and conquering across the map, especially as chaos burns down all the cities across it. Along the same line, the income cap for tribute from vassals has been removed, undoubtedly because so many people found that limit with the new Champions of Chaos DLC, while Allied Recruitment will now offer access to DLC units as well for their respective factions. In Update 2.0, CA significantly buffed many units across all the undead races, and combined with the switch to percentage-based healing in Total War Warhammer 3, this significantly impacted how crumbling worked on units whose leadership was broken, and as a result, they found it necessary to slightly increase the damage on crumbling to help you clear out undead units that are falling apart. So if any of you out there were Hellman Gorst mains, you'll know exactly what they were talking about with your undead, unstoppable zombie hordes. So if you're facing them, they should be a little bit less difficult now. Several races also lacked a channeling stance to help them replenish their winds of magic, and since in this new system it is a finite resource that must be recharged, this becomes increasingly important. So, Beastmen, Greenskins, Lizardmen, Norska, Vampire Coast, and Wood Elves either get new stances or buildings to help with getting that magical resource back. These mechanic tweaks are accompanied by a whole raft of changes for multiplayer balancing. We won't be covering all of the minor tweaks and changes here, as nearly everyone has had a number or two balanced, but there's still plenty to cover. Alethanar, Kairos Fateweaver, Scrag the Slaughterer, and Teclis have all been given new starting positions more in line with lore and interesting gameplay. CA wants to make sure to let you know that they are continuing to iterate on the faction and lord effects of older lords, and their goal is to ensure that every character has their own thematic playstyle that incorporates any new mechanics and system added since their original introduction. On that note, Queek Headtaker of Clan Moors is known for his most unskaven-like loyalty, so this is being represented in-game by giving Queek access to cheaper, more frequent uses of the Menace Below, as well as cheaper clan rats and storm vermin. The devs also added a new reward for capturing Carrick 8 Peaks and tweaked Queek's Lord effects to be more versatile. If you capture the stronghold, all clan rats and storm vermin in your armies will get Frenzy. For Tretch Craventail, Tretch's original bonuses for breaking treaties were not really worth the major reliability cost, and CA has reworked them to instead provide major bonuses on any war declarations, rewarding players for setting up cunning schemes and then eliminating their opponents in rapid, unexpected attacks. To represent Clan Ricketus's renowned wealth, clan rats and storm vermin, who manage to survive a few battles and gain some experience, will win the gift of improved armor and weaponry. Tretch's own army will also now benefit from the devastating flanker attribute, making his armies particularly vicious in ambushes. When it comes to the Empire, the Emperor Karl Franz needed a bit of a touch-up, and his new Lord effects allow him to operate more effectively when supporting his Elector counts. They've also buffed Gal Maraz to better align with its legendary status in the lore. Karl Franz's faction now gives plus 25% prestige from all battles, and his Best of the Empire skill gives an additional 5 leadership as well as plus 20% experience gain for his armies. Orion is really the face of the more hostile side of the Wood Elves, so they've tweaked Orion so that he focuses much more on campaign map mobility and aggression. Orion is now rewarded for fighting multiple factions at once, and gains improved tools to allow him to zip around the map, opening up a more expansionist playstyle that is normally available to the Wood Elves. They've also tweaked the Wild Hunt mechanic to have it trigger more frequently, though with a shorter duration, meaning that it can have a more reliable impact on Orion's campaign. With Dryka heavily focusing on the tree spirit side of the Wood Elf roster, Durthu was left without a clear niche. Durthu was the architect of the original alliance between the Wood Elves and the Forest Spirits. As such, CA is giving him a host of tools that open up new synergies between the two halves of the roster. His Ancient Treemen now provide map-wide missile damage buffs when casting, and both Spellsingers and Ancient Treemen will become more powerful when working together. On top of that, his Treemen can now also tear down walls, opening up new avenues of attack for mobile elf units. This theme of synergy extends to Durthu's personal army, with his Treemen and Treekin now providing potent area effects, so that he's encouraged to mix units together to maximize their performance benefits. And while many of you have been looking forward to a fix for things like artillery, you won't see it in Update 2.2. But they have put it in the looking forward to Update 2.3 section, which they're hoping will land in November. Specifically, AI preemptive dodging of artillery and ranged attack. They are aware of it, and it actually is somewhat intentional. They're trying to achieve a delicate balance where they don't want the AI to make 0 attempts to dodge incoming fire, but they also don't want to make your cannons and artillery completely useless. They're also aware that deployable structures are not quite where they need to be yet, so they're still investigating a proper way of handling those and their update in 2.3. And that's the highlight for some very lengthy patch notes. Did it touch on something you were concerned about? Did it hit the bug that you may have encountered? What do you think they should be focusing on for Update 2.3? Stay tuned to this channel for those notes as they release, because I'm Cody Bonds, and this has been Total War News. Thanks for watching.